Welcome back to Kulturhuset in Tromsø. This is another round of film talks. My name is Karsten Meinich. I'm the editor of Montage magazine, and I'm here today with the Chilean director Dominga Sotomayor. Welcome to Tromsø.
Thank you. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. Very happy to be here.
This Arctic sort of exotic place must be a nice way to bring your film to another part of the world. Your film that participates in Tromsø's program is called Too Late to Die Young. And we shall get into the themes and the story, and I want to ask you also about some of the filmmaking stuff, because there's a lot of great ideas here that I would like to ask you about. But to start off, maybe for the audience that might not know the story of the film and the setting, could you take us a little bit into the main premise for the film? It takes place in early 90s?
It takes place in the 90s,
yeah.
in an ecological community or ecological neighborhood outside Santiago de Chile. And it's a choral, multi-character film that portrays the life of these kids and teenagers this summer of the 90s. That it was the summer where democracy arrived to Chile. So it's been always very difficult to me to describe this film. Maybe it's because of that I made it. I was always trying to explain what it's about, and I think I don't know.
We had a Norwegian director here yesterday, and he's told me before the conversation that I want you to tell me what it's about. But not being from Chile, knowing about the background, the political background, it's not so easy to necessarily know that mood when you're looking at the film with Norwegian eyes, but the part of growing up, the part of being young, the part of summer, it's very, very identifiable. And I would say the film is definitely about growing up, but not only the younger characters. It feels like all the characters in the film are somehow taking in a monumental change that is happening just silently, almost like you can't notice it. And that might be political shifts, or just the mood in the film is very special.
I didn't want it to make obvious when was the film happening.
No.
And so, as you say, for me it's also a film about growing up in time of massive changes, maybe.
Yeah.
But this is like another layer that probably Chileans can see, or people that knows about the Chilean history. But I was more focused in the emotional impact that this period could have in these characters. And I don't know. In a way, it's a very simple film, but it's also it sounds like too much, but I think for me it's like a film about teenagers, about growing up, but also like a growing up of a country. It's a film about transitions.
Yeah,
going
exactly.
from one age to another one, learning how to lose what is behind, and the pain that you have, like growing up.
Yeah.
And I think the starting point has to do, for me, with this nostalgia of some things that you are forgetting of the childhood.
I think definitely you've managed to portray that, and I could think, such a description, I could think, oh, I see that in movies all the time, young people growing up, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But one of the most sort of freeing things about your film, to me as a spectator, is that almost after just a couple of scenes, I don't know how this film will move. It's not familiar. I think there will be a plot, but there's no particular plot, and then the main character, but more than one. And then I loved that feeling of following coming of age. I know how that looks on film, and I know it from my life. But in your story, it seems like your decisions constantly give us the chance to hope that something unexpected might happen, and it will. And it's not always, falling in love, but not exactly as you think it would happen. And did you work a lot when you wrote this script to sort of avoid the cliches? Were you very conscious of that, or did you mostly just write naturally what you wanted to tell?
I usually I start with some image that captures me, like invade me, and I start writing from this. But I grew up in a place that is similar to the place that is portrayed in the film, and I think the place is the most autobiographical thing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make a film focusing just one character. I wanted to make like a collective status in a way. I knew that from the beginning. So even though for some people could be a little bit frustrated because you wanted to be with one character and see this development, I wanted to make a film with digressions, with a bit messy in a way, as life. And as I was saying before, for me, it was always difficult to explain what the film was about. Also because it was difficult to explain how this community or this kind of life was for me. Yeah. So I think I wanted the film to be as messy and as with these digressions as the life we had there, without clear limits between the interior and the exterior, when you can be with one story and jump into the other one, and maybe talking about Sofia and then going with Clara and then going with the dog, and it's all the same kind of mood.
Yeah, for those who are listening and have not yet seen the film, it will keep screening here at Tromsø Film Festival. Tonight there's a screening where you will give a Q&A, but to those of us who have seen the film, I know exactly what you talk about because your imagery is very precise, but the actions are fluid in a way, you know? So I think that one thing you really managed so well here is that every image I look at, I can read it pretty easily. It's not really messy, like you say. But then, within every image, there's so many details. People moving about, dogs, suddenly some horses move. And this place where this film takes place is this community on the mountain or in the woods where many of the buildings don't even have walls that we are used to. So as a filmmaker, you get the chance to look at space, and behind the space there's another space because there's no walls, and in that way I thought your balance was really perfect for a messy story or a messy environment, but with a very clear imagery. What can you tell us something about how you made your images, or how you sort of planned out which images would be for each character?
Yeah, when I'm writing, I'm always writing in images. So I have some pictures of my childhood in this place. I have some ideas, like always very graphic ideas. I like architecture also, so I plan a lot of things. But then we have these messy, kind of messy sequences with many characters. And what I like is to create a system where I can come back to the same framing, for instance, and put the life inside. And so I don't know. You haven't seen my first film. It's called Thursday Till Sunday.
No, yeah, I look forward to see it.
It's very strict and very so I'm always full of kind of rules. I like to make uncomfortable, but also to make me uncomfortable through the framing. And I think it's not something that I can describe because it's very like organic. I'm always very close to the camera because I cannot I don't know. I'm thinking through the images.
Yeah.
And but I wanted to say that in my first film, everything was inside the car, and it was really like strict.
Yeah, because that's a road trip
yes,
movie.
It's a road trip. And in this case, I wanted to go again my own rules. So I think it's a more free film. Also because the life in this community was more free. I wanted to be close to what I was portraying. So. For you've seen this sequence when the girl is singing, and there's some transitions in the editing. It's like I wanted to do whatever I want in a way. There's a lot of playful ideas in this film, and I think it's sometimes I feel like you can have this idea that young filmmakers will be playful. But that is also not necessarily true. A lot of times you see first time or second time or third time filmmakers, but they still want to prove that they can do it, you know? They want to show that they can shoot shot, reverse shot, and then half shot and everything. Yeah. But in this film, I feel really like you're not showing us how to make a film, but you're kind of inviting us to a place. And even though the camera is very specific and very precise, it almost disappears also because of this transitions, maybe that the way everyone moves into the camera, and the next scene could be about any other character you don't really know. I wanted to be as much organic as possible, and I think always the goal is to try to portray like or document like something alive, or like a real emotion. And I think that the casting helps a lot. They're like kids without any experience before, so I was just following them in the context of my story. But I think, I don't know, I don't know, it's kind of a miracle to make a film sometimes, no? Like, suddenly it's a film, but it was like such a beautiful process with so many people and so many kids playing, and so I don't know, I think something nice happened during the shooting. I knew that the film was not in the script in this case.
Yeah.
I was sure about that. I didn't want it to shoot like a nice script. I wanted to portray something that will happen in these 5 weeks of shooting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We have to talk about your cast. There's 3 sort of main characters, or let's say there's 3 kids that we really get to know them, I feel. And they know each other. 2 of them are pretty close in age. There's some feelings, friendship, love, who knows, and the younger girl with the dog.
Yeah.
And as young faces, they have such different characteristics. I felt like I could read parts of my own childhood into each one of them, but separately. Like, the young girl seems to be really philosophical in a way. She thinks, and she doesn't say much. And then the teenage boy, of course, he has a little bit of a crush maybe, but there's his family and the music, and you've given every character so many rich layers, but you're working with young actors. I guess they are non-professionals, but could you tell us a little bit about how you selected these specific actors and what they brought that you didn't write? Like, maybe you found something that was unexpected for you also.
So, I had this rule to work with kids without any experience in TV or cinema or anything. So I worked with my mother, she's an actress, and she helped me with the casting. But we didn't make like a traditional casting. What we did is to find like kids that we already know. Some of them are living in this community, the real community now.
Yeah.
And so we invite like 10 little kids and 10 teenagers to a workshop in the house of my mother, like really like untraditional. And they were, the funny thing is they couldn't not be selected. They were already selected for being part of this.
Right.
Because I didn't want it to make like you are not a part of. So
like you're a part of this movie, but which character?
You are already part of this film. You're invited to this, but then I choose between the group who will be the main characters or.
Right.
And so Demian, it's very special what happened with Demian because it was a
Who plays Sofia?
Sofia. When I directed her, it was a she, and after the film started a transition of feeling like a boy.
Okay.
So it's been like I think every character, every person in the film was kind of in a personal turmoil while we were doing the film, and I really don't think you can create complexity or you can create all these layers. As a filmmaker, you can portray, you can observe it. Like
you're sort of observing, and Demian gives.
I think Demian was in a very particular process that even he didn't know by the moment, but he was living a very special thing. And of course, it was a transition also, and the film is about transitions. So I think, I don't know, we became very close, and it was. I think the film was important for this process to him, so he could connect with their own like feelings and be has the power to move into this transition. Yeah. And so I think for me it's a film, as I told you, about non-definitions, like interior, exterior, feminine, masculine, and what I like in Demian, it was this. I didn't know gonna start this process, but I think there was something very special of being just young. Demian is the youth. Yeah. It's not like a boy or a girl. It's just like the feeling of being young.
And another thing that has sort of there doesn't seem to be a real border between the kids and the adults.
Yeah.
There's another element, and we are used to thinking. Suddenly, I was thinking about Ingmar Bergman's Fanny and Alexander. I just watched it this Christmas, and it's a movie where you can really feel that kids are there and the grown-ups are here, and that's the part of the conflict. Growing up and feeling that you're suppressed by someone. And in your family, or the families in your film, it's the complete opposite. It feels like sometimes I think the adults here are irresponsible in one way because the kids are driving cars or you know, drinking, but at the same time the freedom of the whole place wouldn't be what it is if they made really strict rules. And since there's an autobiographical element here, that you grew up in a similar place or the same place, could you tell us a little bit about the balance between what you experienced from your childhood and what you put in the film?
Yeah.
Are there some scenes that are exact experiences?
No, I don't think so. I think it's more like it's a personal film, but it's a lot of fiction. But I think what you say is important because I didn't want to make a film like critic about the bad parents or like I think what is interesting is the complexity, is observing how amazing was to grow up in a place like this with all this freedom, with this adult that treats you as a par.
Yeah,
so
they're like balanced.
Yeah, and there was a painter and she was asking me, what do you think about this? And I was 8 years old and I was like, no, I like better the other one. So I had my voice has like a value since I was very little, and I think that that marks me a lot. And at the same time, we were kind of forced to grow up a little bit too early and to lose some illusions too early. So I don't think it's about bad or good experience. It's about a complexity, and I like this idea of the illusion of adulthood also. Who is an adult? Like even you turn 30, 40, and you still don't know what you want, and you still don't know what would happen tomorrow. And you start a new project, and you start from zero, and you don't know how to relate with someone. So I like that in the film, the kids are sometimes more adults than the adults. And it's, as you say, it's about growing up in every age.
I think the specific thing that you talk about now, it gives, to me, it makes the title of the film very poetic. And I like the title a lot. I'm sure it's even more poetic in Spanish than in English, but it sounds, you know, a good title of a pop album. Like Too Late to Die Young. It could be like the song that you sing on New Year's Eve, you know. But it plays into what you're talking about, that, you know, who's young and when do you get too old to, you know, like, so it gives us something to think about.
Yes, you can read it whatever you want, but I think it has to do with this. It's like something that you can write when you are a teenager in a wall, or like a...
in your notebooks when you're not listening to the teacher, you're like creating. I did a lot of those.
No, so it's like, it was like a first impact, a first thing that I have to write, like a pushing to write. I like it as a starting point. So also means like it has to do with the nostalgia that there is something that you cannot come back. Too late. It's too late to go back. It's like
I felt that to me the dog became a really important sort of metaphor or image. This is my interpretation, but I very early in this film, there's a very poetic image of the kids just looking out of a car, and there's a dog sort of running after them. And we get to know this dog in the film, and at some point you start to think, might there be two dogs? Is it the same dog? I don't know. But then later in the film, there's a sort of echo image of the dog running. And the dust might not be dust. It might be something else. There's a lot of structural ideas here that feels really like well interwoven, like they're really planned, but when I watch the film, they seem just like they come from left and right. And this dog, for example, where was that during your writing, for example? Was it a very important element that you had like always that's going to be, or did it occur in the late stages like you had? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
No, I was always sure that the film will start with the dog in the front and will end with the dog in the back. It's funny because sometimes you have this image that is kind of an impulse, but it's not that I was thinking, no, this is a metaphor or whatever. Like I think this articulation comes later, right? So, but I like this circularity and this mix of something that is very planned, but at the same, I think the film is full of these things.
Yeah, it is.
That very repetition of places, same shots, and at the same time, these more like fluid sequences. that has to do with how the point of view is getting wilder and wilder until the fire, where it's even wilder, and then we can jump from one character to the other one because it's almost like the smoke is watching them. No, it's like
definitely.
yeah.
And I think also when you said you write images, I think that's a really probably could be a really inspiring starting point for a lot of people who want to write films, because what we end up with will always be some sort of imagery, but it's very easy to get sort of that the conservative sort of well-known imagery, the close-up and the half, like we talked about earlier, it's some of the grammar that you know. So you start thinking it will be like that, it will be like that. But in your film, I feel like the imagery is not really a set grammar, but more like single image, like going in a gallery and you watch like one painting, that's like that, and the next one is same artist but different, and then the next like.
It's interesting because I think for me painting is the most inspiring thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you inspired by?
I had to be honest, and I'm not watching like thousands of films. I didn't have electricity until I was like 15, so I wasn't watching TV.
No.
So I'm watching few films. I mean, I love films, but I think films can come either from life or from films. And in my case, I think these images are more from life.
Yeah. And also...
And paintings and photos.
No, this is very interesting, because I was thinking during the movie that there's a particular visual idea here that is refreshing. And that is because for people like me who watch so many movies, and I work as a critic, and you see film after film, you get used to, and people are used to the grammar. And we feel safe when the grammar is safe. Yeah. The images are safe. But at the same time, that might not lead to great art. So it's always a balance. And why do you like suddenly a film that challenges you? And even though this film is not controversial, or it's not hard-hitting like that, but I really think that a way to recommend this film would be to go watch this film because of the way the images just sort of lets us into the film. And we can almost, it feels like a film where I could, interactively change scenes while watching it. Like it feels very, so I just wanted to compliment you on that.
Thank you.
We have to finish up now. I think the film has a screening tonight with you.
Yes, I will be there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if someone here are planning to watch Too Late to Die Young, you can ask Dominga a question after the screening. And
thank you.
The film has Norwegian distribution.
Yes.
So for the audience in Norway, they can look forward to this film in late 2019.
Yes.
After it has played a few festivals. So we should just hope that you want to come back to Norway in the future.
I wish I can, yeah.
Yeah, we welcome you back anytime. And thank you very much for your time, Dominga Sotomayor. Give her a warm applause.
Thank you.